What's up, Freccero fam? So a while ago, I did an experiment where I lived off Huel for an entire month. Essentially, it's powdered food, and I lived off it for an entire month straight. And since that video, I've gotten bombarded with comments and questions all about the experiment, about Huel, about what I did, how I did it, and everything you can imagine. So in this video, I'm going to be answering the top 26 questions submitted by you. The first 10 questions are the big ones that I've been getting over and over again, and then the other 16 are basically some of the top comments and questions I've gotten on that video. Number 1, did Huel sponsor the video? Absolutely not. In no way, when I lived off Huel for a month, was that sponsored or affiliated by Huel in any way, shape, or form. I want to say that because I've had people comment saying like, oh, of course you loved living off it for a month. Huel paid you to make this video, or they gave you it for free. Absolutely not. This is something that I've always loved Huel, and I love the idea of basically having a meal replacement supplement that's super easy to make. And I remember thinking like, what if I just tried to live off this for a month? Like, could it work? You know, could it not work? I don't know. And obviously on my videos, I'm always super transparent, and obviously it was an amazing month. A very interesting one to say the least. Obviously I have a link below in the description to it, but in no way did Huel sponsor the video. Number 2, did you go to the bathroom? Yes, obviously with something like Huel, which is meant to be a meal replacement supplement that you can basically live off of course they thought of everything, and that's one of the components of it. It has a lot of fiber, it's super healthy for you. Yes, I went to the bathroom as normal. Number 3, did you really live off it? Like, did you have anything else? So being honest, yes, like for that entire month, all I had was Huel. I will say in the beginning, and I talked about this in the video, that I basically went from normal food and immediately jumped into Huel, and my body kind of rejected it. So I did kind of, especially in the beginning of the month, I'd have mostly Huel, but then a few snacks here and there to kind of balance it out. And then I slowly transitioned to Huel. But essentially, yeah, that's really all I had the entire month. I'd say the only thing that I really had a lot that wasn't Huel was actually just pre-workout. So obviously before my workouts, I'd have like coffee or some type of like caffeine plus BCAA supplement. Besides that, it was only Huel. Number 4, did you drink alcohol? Yes, I will say, surprisingly, you all know it's kind of like drinking 101 in a sense, is that you obviously always want something in your stomach before you start drinking. Surprisingly, I wasn't sure with Huel if that would work or not. Because if you think about it, it's food, but it's obviously powdered food. It's not like some solid substance. But in a sense, if you think about it, if you, like, say, took pasta and ground it up and ate it, yeah, it's still pasta. It's just in a more grounded form. So with Huel, I actually noticed 0 negative side effects when drinking alcohol on it. I will say in the beginning, I was very careful. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a drink and then wait, just in case, like, say, it hits me right away or something. So I was very careful in the beginning, but surprisingly, I actually thought going into it that my body would react negatively to the combination of Huel and alcohol, but surprisingly, it was fine. Honestly, the funny part is that the worst part about it was when I get back from the bar, and let's say it's like 1 or 2 a.m. and I'm with my friends, and they're all ordering pizza or some type of fast food or delivery, and I was there being like, all right, time to have Huel. And I would just be making my Huel shakes while they're all eating like fast food and whatnot. Number 5, did you get bored of Huel or the taste? Surprisingly, no. I thought I would going into it, but I think the biggest thing when I was going into doing this and knowing I was going to do this for the month is I almost looked at Huel as just kind of like taking a vitamin. So in my mind, it wasn't like, okay, I have to eat today and now I'm going to have Huel, whatever. And I will say, I actually had Huel unsweetened and unflavored. I think if I had the Huel vanilla or chocolate or any of the other flavors, I actually think I would have gotten more bored with it because it's almost like a consistent flavor you're having every day, like having vanilla all the time or chocolate all the time. But I think because it was the unsweetened and unflavored version, I honestly didn't really notice about it. And being honest, I wouldn't make Huel and sit there and taste it over and over. I would pretty much just about 4 to 5 times a day, make Huel, chug it, and that'd be it. Number 6, could you permanently live off it? Honestly, no. Yes, I know that Huel is incredible for you. It's unbelievable. Obviously, I love it. I have it all the time, even now a year later. But permanently living off it, I just don't, just like kind of the social aspect. Obviously that month was fun because I knew it was only gonna be 1 month. It was this fun YouTube video and challenge I was doing. But like, say if I had to do that all the time, you know, I would miss just getting food with friends. I miss kind of the social aspect of just having a good meal, being with friends, enjoying that kind of company while eating. And that's why most people, they're called Hueligans now, which is kind of funny. Most Hueligans will say they'll have it only for breakfast or only for lunch, or some people will have it for breakfast and lunch, but then their dinner, when they're with their family or they're with their friends, they'll actually have like a real meal. So I guess theoretically you probably could permanently live off it, I guess if you had to, but I just don't know. I just don't think it'd be as fun as all the benefits and just in general fun parts that come from having food with family, friends, kind of the whole social aspect. Number 7, did you save money? Yes. Now, I will say, being 100% transparent on camera, I spent roughly about $240 on all the Huel that I got. So if you look at it, I basically spent $240 for a month's supply of food. Now, could I live off less than $240 a month on food? Absolutely, right? Especially if you're like hardcore budgeting. But the cool thing with Huel is that when I actually bought all that food, I actually had a good amount left over after that month. Surprisingly, I would try to have it 5 times a day because I had 5 servings of each one being 400 calories to equal 2,000 calories that I needed for the day. But surprisingly, even sometimes after having 4 servings, I'd be like, I am stuffed. I honestly don't think I could have a 5th serving. So I think I have like an extra bag left over from Huel. So I probably spent close to, I'd say, roughly about $200 for that month. And yes, I absolutely saved money. I think the biggest thing that I saved money on, being honest, is not necessarily food itself per se, because again, I think you could live off a lot less than that if you actually are hardcore budgeting. I think Huel is a good price thing, especially if you're traveling or whatever, but I think especially if you buy food in bulk, you could probably live off way less money than that. But I think the biggest thing was the random stupid purchases that I did not need, right? Like we've all been there, like I said, you're driving back from work, you're tired, and you see, I don't know, fast food or some McDonald's thing or some food thing. You're like, you know what, I'll just pop in and grab a meal. And next thing you know, it's like $15 that you just dropped. And you're like, shoot, I just dropped $15. Or like I said earlier, coming back from the bar and ordering delivery, we all know through like Uber Eats, for example, you would order a burger for, let's say, like $12 and somehow it's $25 because of the delivery fee and the service fee and this other tax and this other fee and then the tip and then blah, blah, blah. So I think for me, the biggest way that I saved money when doing this whole experiment was just the fact that I wasn't buying food that I essentially just did not need. Number 8, did you crave any food? And if so, what food? Like, was there any cravings that you had throughout the month? The weird thing was, it wasn't like there was one particular food. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I really want ice cream or something like that. The biggest thing was missing the oral fixation. It was that after a while, I missed almost this whole feeling of, oh, I just want to chew something, right? I just want to have that kind of sensation of having a fork and knife and eating something, whether it's, I don't care what, whether it's salad or steak or burger or fries or, you know, salmon or just any type of food. I just missed the whole digging a utensil, I think for a better word, into a plate of something and eating it. Number 9, did you lose weight? No, but I'm gonna put an asterisk on this. I know a lot of people look to Huel for weight loss. That's a big thing I know a lot of people look towards. The interesting thing is during this month, I found that I stayed about the same weight. Surprisingly, I maybe even gained a little bit more weight. But the main reason why is that I was actually working out a lot. Like I was taught, my workouts were super brutal and intense. And so I found that if anything, I almost slimmed down and put on more muscle at the same time. And lastly, number 10, what is the most unique thing or interesting thing that you learned after doing this? The interesting thing or the most unique thing actually was the fact that I don't think people truly realize how much mental stress and energy is put on food. Like, I think there was some statistic or study I was reading that the average American spends roughly about 2 hours a day just on food logistics. I mean, think about it. You spend time thinking about what you want to eat. You create a grocery list, for example. You drive to the grocery store. You buy all this food. You come back. You have to put the food away in your house. You have to then take out all the pots, the pans, the utensils, the items to make food. You then have to make the food. After you make the food, obviously, then you eat it. After you eat it, you have to clean everything up. Then you wash all the dishes, or you put it in the dishwasher, you blah, 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 blah. And I think that not only that in terms of the food logistics, but also for me, especially being big into fitness, and I think this is true for a lot of people though, in general, you think, okay, have I had enough vegetables today? Did I have enough meat? Did I have enough protein? Should I have more carbs? Should I have less carbs? You know, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think people truly realize all the mental, just annoying nagging, for lack of a better word, that does come along with food. And I think after doing this, especially after the first even week, I remember thinking like, wow, for some reason, I feel less stressed. in an interesting way. Not in like the fact that I feel stressed when I normally eat, but it was this interesting thing that I'm like, wow, I feel that I don't have this weird, almost nagging, or this weird like thing annoying me over and over again, because I didn't have to think, did I have enough micronutrients? I didn't have to think, shoot, do I have to go out today and buy food? Do I have enough food? Maybe I can squeeze a meal here. Do I have enough leafy greens for tonight, etc., etc.? I didn't have to think about anything. I just really had to have Huel, and that was it. Now it is time to answer these specific questions that you have submitted on that video. So I have my computer pulled up right now, so I'm jumping into it from Paulo Alzate. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. They said, it says water, it says ice. How about fat-free milk? So I will say, when I did Huel, I only used water with it. I didn't use anything else besides water. I think fat-free milk is fine. I would just say make sure you're okay in terms of, in case you're lactose intolerant or whatnot. I think combining with milk would be okay, but I will say you'll be blown away how much Huel fills you up. So the thought of having milk and Huel at the same time, to me, just sounds super sickening. If you want me to be honest, next some coriander yander, do one on Soylent. I'm just not the biggest fan of Soylent's formula. Maybe once in a while it's not bad, but the thing is, permanently living off Soylent for a month, I think is way more, I just don't think you're getting enough nutrients from it, as opposed to Huel, which is way more well-rounded in terms of all their nutrients. Now from James Matthews, thanks for the video, well, no problem. Was wondering how it would work with intermittent fasting, and you answered that for me. So yes, I actually did do intermittent fasting, which basically I did the 16 and 8 hour diet, which basically means that you don't eat, or basically you fast for 16 hours, only essentially having water, and then you only eat for 8 hours. So I did do intermittent fasting while I did Huel. Being honest, to talk about my experience with that, I will say that, one, if you've never done intermittent fasting, I do not suggest doing both at the same time. I suggest doing one, get acclimated, and then do the other, like say if you want to combine Huel with your diet. The biggest thing I found though with intermittent fasting is that Huel really does fill you up. Like I said, it's tremendous and almost surprising how much it fills you up. So when I was trying to have, 4 to 5 Huel shakes within an 8 hour period, it was a lot. But I did do it with intermittent fasting, and honestly, besides being pretty full, it went pretty well. From Jacob Phillips, currently eating fast food 2 to 3 times a day. It's also, my body's hating me. Yep, of course. Let's see, gonna give this a shot. I would like to save money on food. It would be cool to train my body not to want bad foods. So this is one that I've gotten in a couple different ways. Essentially, like, can this help get over fast food or having bad foods or junk food? The answer is yes. I actually think the biggest thing with junk food and fast food, besides maybe the taste or the craving for like chips or whatever, is the convenience. I mean, if you think about it, if you have to think of making, like say, salmon, right? And like say you're gonna have to prepare it and spice it and cook it and do all this kind of stuff, I think the whole time of it, actually I think is a big thing that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to nutrition. But if you're with Huel, if, like say I said to you, hey, you can have a super healthy shake right now that takes 2 seconds to make, or you can have this McDonald's that you have to drive and go get. Huel would be more accessible, and I think that's the biggest thing. Think about it, it's called fast food for a reason. So if you're lazy and like so you're just having one of those tough days and you just don't feel like making food, fast food seems way more appealing. And I think that's one thing with Huel that I think is a very underrated thing, is that the accessibility of making it, the time to make it, the ease of it, is something that's great. From the Trip of Life, love the review. I've been on the fence for a while about getting this. Is this good for somewhat of a cleanse for after the holidays? What do you think? So just wording this super simply, is this good for doing a cleanse? I'm going to say yes. Now, obviously, you could consult with a doctor. I'm not a doctor, and I don't pretend to be one on any of my videos. I would say yes, though. I think because, let's say, for example, compared to the last question, if let's say you're like, oh, I'm having fast food, I'm having junk food a lot, I want to use Huel to kind of replace that, will that be good for doing a cleanse? My answer is 100% yes. The biggest thing, though, I'm going to say, and this is a very underrated thing, and a lot of people don't talk about this when actually doing a cleanse, is make sure you drink enough water. I talked about that in the video, basically, when I lived off Huel for a month, that when you have Huel, I'd also have to kind of remind myself to also have another kind of shaker of water. So I typically had Huel in a shaker that's about 24 ounces, and then I'd have another 24-ounce thing of that, again, with only water. Because I think you don't really think about that. When you drink Huel, you're not really getting any liquid. Even though, yeah, it's liquid in a sense, you're not rehydrating yourself, or hydrating yourself, I think is a better word. So make sure you drink a lot of water, especially if you're planning on combining this with a cleanse in a way where you're having Huel plus some type of cleanse tea or some type of detox stuff, make sure you're drinking a ton of water. From Diarrhea Chain, weirdest name ever. Zelda reference in the beginning. Yes, so in that video, and a couple of people kind of noticed this, that in the video when I have like the beginning, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, the noise that I'd play was actually the from Zelda Majora's Mask, when it's basically like day 1, day 2, day 3, from Majora's Mask, the video game. Gerardo Aguirre, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly as well. Is it healthy if I just eat Huel for lunch and dinner every day? Yes, but again, I would suggest having some type of solid food along with that. Now, obviously, I did live that entire month with only Huel, but I don't think I could do it permanently, like I said earlier in this video. So I think, let's say if you're like, hey, Mark, I really want to do a really big breakfast. I love breakfast food, as I know a lot of people do, and then I'm going to have Huel for lunch and dinner. Does that work? I'd say yes. You just want to make sure that I think you're constantly mixing up the different foods that you're eating. That's why, as much, I'm just being honest, as much as any company might want to pitch, hey, you can live off our product permanently forever, I still think mixing up foods and food groups and just having a variety is always important. From SG, 2,000 calories is a bit low for an active person. Yes, they're right. In the sense that I think that, especially me working out a lot, like I said, when I was doing Huel, 2,000 calories, if you have 5 shakes of Huel, I found was a little bit less. Like, I have a lot more than 2,000 calories typically in a day. The interesting thing, though, is for some reason, if let's say, and I said this, how I had sometimes even 4 shakes. So let's say I only had 1,600 calories, I would still feel full and energized and pretty much good to go just off that. So I think the most unique thing about Huel was that, or one of the most unique things about Huel when I did it, was that even though maybe I was having a little bit less calories than I typically would, I think the calories would be so complete and full that it really wasn't an issue, like they're saying, to have that small amount of calories. From JDLC, how's your energy and focus? Are you benefiting from GI not being used? So obviously, like, my GI was fine in terms of being used, because obviously I'm still consuming food and whatnot. But how's your energy and focus? Honestly, fine. Like I said, I actually think that I had more energy throughout the day, minus after I'd have Huel. I noticed that I was, especially in the beginning, I'd have a pretty intense food coma after I'd have Huel, and then my body got adjusted to it. From Isabel Cortez, how slow do you drink this? So I pretty much chug it. I honestly treat it kind of like a vitamin. I'd make it right away, I'd chug it, and then that would be it. I found that if I left Huel in the shaker for a little bit, and let's say waited even like 5 or 10 minutes, it would just get this weird consistency that I did not like. And in addition to, I think the benefit of Huel is that you don't have to really think about food at all. So when I would have it, I'd just chug it, and then that would be it. It's not like I said, I wouldn't savor it or sip it. It's not like that it was bad tasting. It really didn't taste bad at all. It's just that I kind of treat it like almost like a shot, or like a big shot, I guess, and then say, have a huge shot, and then go about with my day. From Caitlin King, I'm so curious about the flavors. I would try Soylent, probably the same with the plain. Yep. The Soylent flavor is kind of weird. I'm kind of skipping ahead. Do you think that if you do like 1 scoop of a flavor and 1 scoop of unflavored, would be more tolerable? And also, thank you, Depth, for being so in depth with these videos. Oh yeah, no problem. So basically, can you combine flavors of Huel? Yeah, I mean, yeah, why not? From Almi Carmelave, can someone give me a referral code for Huel? Each gets $15. So yes, I actually do. I am part of the referral program, so I do have a referral code. It's in basically the description below. Essentially, the way it works is if you get Huel, you get $15 off Huel, and I get kind of like a $15 credit. So when I go to order Huel in the future, I get basically $15 off it. So it's kind of like a, it's kind of a win-win, because you get $15 off. It gives me $15 as credit to go to Huel. So yeah, if you want to, say, order Huel and get $15 off, you can click my link in the description. All right, so I read a lot about losing weight with Huel. I'm actually a hard gainer, so I want to gain some weight. Is that difficult with Huel, even if I have proper meals in addition to my Huel meals, to get enough kcal a day? So it's interesting that most people who commented on that video talking about wanting to lose weight, and it's certainly this person, they were like, or Tim wants to specifically gain weight. Honestly, yes. I think Huel is amazing for gaining weight. I will say, though, let's say if you're trying to put on muscle, let's say you're just trying to put on mass, like say if you're a football player, for example, I will say I think you're maybe better off having an actual weight gainer supplement compared to Huel. The only reason why I say that is that the thing with Huel is that it really does fill you up a lot. And if you think about it, one serving of Huel is 400 calories, but even for just 400 calories, you'll be surprised how full you're going to be. So if, let's say, your goal is to gain weight, I suggest using like a mass gainer supplement. And hey, maybe do both. Combine a mass gainer, basically a weight gainer to put on more mass, more muscle, or whatever you're trying to go for, along with Huel, specifically Huel Black. Would this be good for weight gain after dental surgery? So obviously, not just with weight gain, but I think if, let's say, you have dental surgery, or basically something where you can't chew food, yes, actually, I think Huel is really the perfect thing for that, because you want to get all your macro and micronutrients in. It's very tough if, let's say, you're eating, let's say you can't chew, or let's say, God forbid, something happens and you just can't consume anything solid at all. I mean, this is actually the perfect thing for that, because obviously you don't have to worry about only having oatmeal every day or something like that. You're really just getting all the macro and micronutrients your body needs. You're getting everything you need. So yeah, I'd say honestly 100% yes. Obviously, always consult with a doctor. I always want to say that, because who knows, let's say there's some type of dietary thing that you really need, and maybe Huel doesn't cover that. So you do want to consult with a professional. Again, I'm not one, and I always want to stress that. But I think in this case, especially, like say, if you're in a position where you just can't chew food for whatever reason, Huel's perfect. What do you need to eat besides this to get all needed vitamins? Okay, so this, again, is a very tricky situation, because it's very tough to say. Every person's body's different. Huel's designed so that you don't need to have anything extra. And one thing I do want to stress is that do not have any extra supplements when consuming Huel. If, let's say, you were to do what I did and you want to live off Huel for a month, do not have extra vitamin D or extra whatever, unless you need it. Unless your body is a very specific situation where you need an extra supplement for whatever reason, that's a very unique situation. But Huel's kind of designed that you really don't need anything extra. What I will say though, like I said numerous times in this video, is honestly just have other food and healthy food. So like say you have breakfast and lunch as Huel. For dinner, you have a nice meal like a salad and some chicken or something like that, right? Like, make sure you have really healthy foods along with Huel. But the truth is, it's not like you're like, shoot, Huel doesn't have enough fiber, Huel doesn't have enough vitamin blank, or whatever it is. Huel has everything your body needs and is meant for that. And last but not least, Zach Bonacini, I feel like Huel would make you lose facial chewing muscles, giving you more of a double chin / a weak jawline. Chewing is a natural part of eating for humans, and don't think drinking this powder would give you your facial definition. The most important looking attractive, I'm assuming for men, obviously, I can definitely see you slowly losing your jawline. This is actually a really interesting question to finish off this whole video series with. This is something I didn't really think about, because for me, my chin or my jawline or whatever, which obviously they have done studies, it has been shown to be an attractive trait when it comes to guys. It's interesting that for me, I didn't notice any difference. Obviously, I was only on it for a month, but who knows? This could be a good point. I honestly don't know. Being honest with this question, I think because who knows if you, let's say, only just drank Huel for a year, 2 years, it could potentially affect your jaw and your chewing ability. That could be a potential thing. I honestly don't know. I'd say two things. That one, if let's say most of your diet, or let's say all of your diet's Huel, maybe have gum. Maybe, I know gum has pros and cons to it nutritionally, but gum's one option. Another thing is, and I've said this before, again, closing out this video, I don't think you should permanently only live off Huel. I think you should have something else to just balance everything out, and also just make more variety for your body. But kind of an interesting question to finish off this whole video series with. But yeah, I mean, maybe this could be a really good point. Now, I don't really know about the whole, if you lose your facial definition, maybe you won't be as attractive, as a guy to, like, say, the opposite sex or whatever sex you're attracted to. But in terms of losing your jaw muscles and whatnot, potentially, I honestly don't know.